I never imagined that my relationship with my own son would come to this, a place where silence replaced conversation, where love was overshadowed by resentment, and where the bond we once shared was fractured beyond recognition. My name is James, and for most of my life, I believed that being a good father meant providing for my family, working hard, and making sacrifices. But I learned the hard way that sometimes, no matter how much you give, it's never enough. My son, Michael, refused to speak to me for years, and the reason behind it shattered me. He demanded that I give up everything: my business, my home, my pride, before he would even consider forgiving me. This is the story of a father's love tested by betrayal, sacrifice, and the painful journey to redemption. Stay with me, because this story is not just about loss, but about hope, healing, and the true meaning of family. Growing up, Michael was my pride and joy. From the moment he was born, I dreamed of the man he would become. I worked tirelessly to provide him with every opportunity: good schools, extracurricular activities, and a comfortable home. I wanted him to have a life I never had, free from the struggles and hardships that marked my own childhood. I believed that my sacrifices would earn his love and respect, that he would understand the lengths I went to for him. But as Michael grew older, things began to change. The boy who once looked up to me with admiration started to distance himself. Our conversations became shorter, our interactions strained. I chalked it up to teenage rebellion, to the natural growing pains of a father and son trying to find their way. I didn't realize that beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, one that would threaten to tear us apart. The turning point came when Michael was in his early 20s. He had just graduated from college and was starting to build his own life. I was proud, but also worried. I wanted to be involved, to guide him, but he pushed me away. He accused me of being controlling, of not understanding his dreams and ambitions. The man I had raised was no longer the son I knew. He was angry, distant, and unwilling to forgive past mistakes. The rift between us grew wider with each passing year. Michael stopped returning my calls, ignored my messages, and refused to come home for holidays. The silence was deafening. I was left alone with my regrets, wondering where I had gone wrong. I tried to reach out, to bridge the gap, but every attempt was met with coldness and rejection. Then came the ultimatum. Michael told me that he would never speak to me again unless I gave up everything: my business, my house, my life as I knew it. He wanted me to start over, to prove that I was willing to change, to show that I valued our relationship more than material success. It was a demand that broke me. How could I give up everything I had worked for? How could I sacrifice my identity for a chance at reconciliation? But the pain of losing my son was greater than any fear or pride. I realized that if I wanted to heal our relationship, I had to be willing to make the hardest choice of my life. I began the process of letting go, selling my business, moving out of the house, and stepping away from the life I had built. It was a journey filled with doubt, sorrow, and hope. This story is about that journey, the sacrifices I made, the lessons I learned, and the unexpected ways in which love can heal even the deepest wounds. It's a story for anyone who has ever felt the sting of rejection, the weight of regret, and the power of forgiveness. Join me as I share the truth behind my son's silence and the path we took to find each other again. The early years of Michael's life were filled with joy and promise. From the moment he took his first steps, I was there cheering him on with a heart full of pride and hope. Every milestone, his first words, his first day of school, his graduation felt like a victory, not just for him, but for me as well. I worked long hours, often sacrificing my own needs and desires, because I believed that providing for him was the ultimate expression of love. I thought that by giving him everything he needed: education, opportunities, a comfortable home, I was securing his happiness and strengthening the bond between us. I wanted him to have a life better than mine, free from the struggles I had faced growing up. But as Michael entered his teenage years, the dynamics between us began to shift in ways I hadn't anticipated. He grew more independent, more opinionated, and increasingly distant. The boy who once looked up to me with admiration started to pull away, creating a gap that I struggled to bridge. Our conversations, which had once been easy and full of laughter, became strained and filled with misunderstandings. I wanted to be a supportive father, to guide him through the challenges of adolescence. But I often felt like an outsider in his world, a world that seemed to be moving too fast for me to keep up with. Michael's anger and distance weren't just about me. They were about the pressures he faced as a young man trying to find his place in the world. The expectations he felt weighed heavily on his shoulders, and the mistakes we both made along the way. He resented the sacrifices I had made, feeling that those sacrifices came at the cost of our relationship. He blamed me for being absent emotionally, even when I was physically present. I was there, but somehow, I wasn't enough. The gap between us grew wider, fueled by unspoken grievances, unmet needs, and a growing sense of frustration on both sides. During this difficult time, I was also facing challenges in my own life. The business I had built from the ground up was struggling. The economy was tough, competition fierce, and the stress of trying to keep everything afloat took a toll on my health and spirit. I was overwhelmed, juggling the demands of work and family, trying to hold everything together while feeling increasingly isolated. Michael's rejection added to the weight I carried, making it harder to find hope or direction. I felt like I was losing not only my son but also myself. Despite the distance and the pain, I never stopped loving Michael. I held on to the memories of our better days, the times when we laughed together, shared dreams, and felt connected. I clung to the hope that we could find our way back to each other, that the bond we once had could be repaired. I reached out in small ways, sending letters, leaving voicemails, trying to show that I cared and that I was there whenever he was ready, but each attempt was met with silence or anger, deepening the wound and making me question whether reconciliation was even possible. The turning point came when Michael sent me an ultimatum. It was a moment of clarity and heartbreak that shook me to my core. He told me that unless I was willing to give up everything and start anew, he would never speak to me again. It was a demand that forced me to confront my own pride, fears, and the reality of our fractured relationship. I realized that if I wanted to save our relationship, I had to be willing to sacrifice not just material things, but my ego and my sense of control. I had to let go of the life I had built and the identity I had clung to for so long. Preparing for this hardest decision of my life was a painful process. Selling the business I had poured my heart and soul into was heartbreaking. It wasn't just a source of income. It was a symbol of my dedication, my dreams, and my legacy. Letting it go felt like losing a part of myself. Leaving the home where I had raised my family, where countless memories were made, was equally devastating. Packing up my belongings, saying goodbye to the walls that had witnessed so much joy and sorrow, was emotionally overwhelming. But with each step, I felt a glimmer of hope, a chance to rebuild what had been broken, to heal the wounds that had kept us apart. This part of my story is about the struggles and sacrifices that come with choosing love over pride. It's about the courage it takes to let go of what you think defines you and to embrace the uncertainty of starting over. It's about the faith required to believe in second chances, even when the path ahead is unclear and fraught with pain. I learned that sometimes the greatest gift we can give to those we love is the willingness to change ourselves first. As I moved forward with this decision, I reflected on the lessons I had learned along the way. I realized that love is not always enough to keep a relationship alive. Love must be accompanied by respect, understanding, and the willingness to meet each other halfway. I understood that being a good father isn't just about providing materially, but about being present emotionally, listening and nurturing the connection. I saw that pride can be a barrier to healing, and that humility is essential for reconciliation. I also came to appreciate the complexity of family relationships. They are rarely simple or perfect. They are shaped by history, personality, and circumstance. Mistakes are inevitable, but they don't have to be the end. With effort, communication, and forgiveness, families can grow stronger through adversity. This journey taught me to value patience and persistence. Healing takes time, and rebuilding trust is a gradual process. There will be setbacks and moments of doubt, but the commitment to keep trying is what makes the difference. I learned to celebrate small victories, an honest conversation, a shared laugh, a moment of understanding as steps toward a better future. Most importantly, I learned that hope is powerful. Even in the darkest times, Hope can light the way. It can inspire us to keep moving forward, to believe in the possibility of change, and to hold on to the love that binds us. If you are facing similar struggles with your family, know that you are not alone. Relationships can be difficult, but they are worth fighting for. Don't be afraid to reach out, to seek help, and to take the first step toward healing. Change is possible, and love can overcome even the deepest wounds. Letting go of everything I had built was one of the most difficult decisions I have ever faced in my life. The business I had spent decades nurturing was far more than just a source of income. It was my identity, my legacy, the embodiment of years of hard work, sacrifice, and dreams. I had started it from scratch, pouring my heart and soul into every detail, working tirelessly to grow it into something successful and meaningful. Selling it felt like losing a part of myself, like severing a connection to a chapter of my life that had defined who I was. The process was filled with uncertainty and fear. Would I find a new purpose without the business? Would Michael ever forgive me for the mistakes I had made? Would our relationship survive this sacrifice, or was it already too far gone? The house was another source of deep pain. It wasn't just a building. It was a repository of memories, family dinners filled with laughter, celebrations marking milestones, quiet moments shared with Lisa and Michael that I cherished deeply. Packing up my belongings, sorting through decades of accumulated possessions, and saying goodbye to the walls that had witnessed so much joy and sorrow was emotionally overwhelming. Every item I boxed up seemed to carry a story, a fragment of our family's history. I questioned whether this sacrifice would be enough, whether it would truly bring us back together, or if it was simply the closing of a door that could never be reopened. During this incredibly challenging time, I leaned heavily on friends and family for support. Their encouragement reminded me that I was not alone in this struggle, that others had faced similar hardships and found ways to heal and rebuild. Their stories gave me hope and strength when I felt like giving up. I also sought counseling to help process my emotions and prepare for the journey ahead. Sitting in those sessions, confronting my fears, regrets, and hopes, was a humbling experience. It forced me to look inward, to acknowledge my vulnerabilities, and to find resilience I didn't know I had. The counseling helped me develop tools to cope with the emotional turmoil and to approach my relationship with Michael with renewed patience and understanding. It was a difficult but necessary step that strengthened my resolve to keep fighting for our bond. Meanwhile, Michael remained distant. Our communication was limited to occasional texts and brief phone calls, often tense and unresolved. I respected his need for space, understanding that healing takes time and cannot be rushed. But the silence between us was painful, a constant reminder of the gulf that had grown. I longed for a breakthrough, for a moment when the walls he had built around himself would come down and we could reconnect. But despite the distance, I never stopped hoping that our relationship could be repaired, that the love we shared as father and son could overcome the hurt and misunderstandings. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, small moments of connection began to emerge. A shared memory recalled in a text message, a heartfelt apology offered during a brief phone call, a willingness to listen without judgment. These moments were fragile but precious, like the first shoots of spring breaking through a long, harsh winter. They were signs that the walls between us were starting to crumble, that the possibility of reconciliation was real. Each small step forward was a victory, a glimmer of hope that kept me moving forward even on the darkest days. This section of my story is about the emotional toll of sacrifice, the weight of giving up, not just material possessions, but a part of your identity and dreams. It's about the power of hope, the belief that even when things seem broken beyond repair, healing is possible. It's about the slow, often painful process of rebuilding trust, brick by brick, conversation by conversation. Trust that was shattered by years of distance and hurt cannot be restored overnight, but with patience, honesty, and love, it can grow again. It's also a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the capacity to endure hardship, to forgive, and to rebuild. The bond between a father and son is one of the most profound connections in life, capable of weathering storms and emerging stronger. Our journey was not easy, and it was filled with setbacks and moments of doubt. I learned that sacrifice is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. It takes courage to let go of what you hold dear for the sake of something greater, the chance to heal a broken relationship. It requires humility to admit mistakes and to be willing to change. And it demands faith in the possibility of forgiveness, in the power of love, and in the future that can be built together. Throughout this journey, I discovered that healing is not a destination but a process. It requires ongoing effort, communication, and a willingness to be vulnerable. It means showing up even when it's hard, listening even when it's painful, and loving even when you're afraid. It means understanding that both parties carry their own wounds and that healing is a shared responsibility. I also realize the importance of hope. Hope is what sustains us when the path is unclear, when the silence feels unbearable, and when the pain threatens to overwhelm. Hope is the light that guides us through the darkness, reminding us that change is possible and that love can triumph over adversity. If you are facing a similar struggle, know that you are not alone. Relationships can be complicated and painful, but they can also be healed. It takes time, patience, and courage, but the rewards are worth it. Don't be afraid to seek support, to speak your truth, and to take the steps necessary to rebuild trust. As time passed, Michael and I began the slow, delicate process of rebuilding our relationship piece by piece. It was far from easy. There were setbacks that tested our resolve, misunderstandings that reignited old wounds, and moments of doubt when it felt like the distance between us might never close. But despite these challenges, we made a commitment to each other, to practice honest communication, to listen without judgment, and to be patient as we navigated the difficult path toward healing. We understood that rebuilding trust and connection would not happen overnight, but with consistent effort and openness, it was possible. Our journey back to each other started with small gestures, simple phone calls to check in, brief messages sharing updates about our lives, and gradually opening up about our feelings. At first, these conversations were cautious and tentative. Michael would share his frustrations and fears, sometimes lashing out in anger or retreating into silence. I, in turn, shared my regrets and hopes, exposing vulnerabilities I had long kept hidden. These exchanges were raw and sometimes painful, forcing us to confront emotions we had buried for years, but they were necessary. Each honest conversation chipped away at the walls we had built around ourselves, creating space for understanding and empathy. Recognizing the complexity of our fractured relationship, we decided to seek family counseling. This decision was a turning point. The guidance we received from a skilled therapist was invaluable. Through counseling, we learned tools for effective communication, how to express ourselves clearly without blame, how to listen actively without interrupting, and how to validate each other's feelings even when we disagreed. We were taught conflict resolution techniques that helped us navigate disagreements constructively rather than destructively. Most importantly, counseling fostered empathy, allowing us to see the situation from each other's perspectives and to appreciate the pain and struggles that had shaped our behaviors. The counseling sessions were not easy. They required us to be honest and vulnerable in ways we hadn't been before. We confronted painful memories, admitted mistakes, and faced uncomfortable truths. But the safe space provided by the therapist allowed us to do this without fear of judgment or rejection. Over time, these sessions helped us break down the barriers that had kept us apart, replacing resentment with understanding and anger with compassion. Rebuilding trust was a gradual process. Michael needed to see that I was truly committed to change, that my sacrifices were not just about material things or empty gestures, but about making amends and being present in his life in a meaningful way. I had to prove that I valued our relationship above all else, that I was willing to listen, to learn, and to grow. This meant showing up consistently, following through on promises, and being patient when progress was slow. For my part, I also had to learn to forgive not just Michael, but myself. I had to let go of guilt and regret that weighed heavily on my heart. Forgiveness was essential for moving forward, for releasing the past and embracing the possibility of a new beginning. It was a process that required time and effort, but it was liberating and healing. As trust slowly returned, we began to create new memories together. We shared meals, went on outings, and celebrated milestones. These moments, though sometimes awkward or tentative, were filled with genuine connection and joy. and joy. The silence that had once defined our relationship was replaced by laughter and conversation. We found common ground again, rediscovering the bond between father and son that had never truly disappeared, only been buried beneath years of pain. Our relationship was different, now changed by the trials we had faced, but healing nonetheless. We learned to appreciate each other in new ways, to respect our differences, and to support each other's growth. The journey was ongoing, with ups and downs, but the foundation of love and commitment gave us hope for the future. This part of my story is about the power of forgiveness, the willingness to let go of past hurts, and to open one's heart to healing. It's about the importance of seeking professional support when relationships become too complex to navigate alone. Counseling provided us with the tools and guidance we needed to rebuild our connection on a healthier, more honest footing. It's also about the gradual process of restoring a broken relationship. Healing is rarely linear. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to face difficult emotions. But with love and effort, even the deepest wounds can begin to mend. Our story is one of hope and renewal, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring bond between a father and son. It shows that no matter how far apart we may drift, there is always a path back to each other if we are willing to take the first step. If you find yourself in a similar situation, struggling to repair a fractured relationship, know that healing is possible. It takes courage to face the pain, humility to ask for help, and commitment to change. But the rewards, reconnection, understanding, and love are worth every effort. Despite the progress Michael and I had made, the path to healing was far from smooth. Old wounds, though scarred over, sometimes resurfaced unexpectedly, reminding us both of the pain and hurt that had once driven us apart. Trust, which we had painstakingly begun to rebuild, remained fragile, like a delicate glass sculpture that could shatter with the slightest misstep. There were moments when Michael's anger flared up suddenly, triggered by memories or misunderstandings, and I found myself struggling to respond with the patience and calm that the situation demanded. Those moments tested my resolve and reminded me that healing is not a destination, but an ongoing process. At times, I doubted whether we would ever fully heal. The silence and distance that had defined our relationship for so long felt like a heavy shadow, one that was not easily lifted. I questioned whether the love we once shared could truly be restored, or if the damage was too deep to overcome. These doubts were painful, but they also fueled my determination to keep trying, to keep showing up, and to keep believing in the possibility of reconciliation. Each challenge we faced, however difficult, became an opportunity to grow. We learned to navigate disagreements with respect, recognizing that conflict is a natural part of any relationship, but that how we handle it makes all the difference. We practiced apologizing sincerely, understanding that a genuine apology is not just about words, but about acknowledging hurt and taking responsibility. We also learned to listen deeply, not just to respond, but to truly hear and understand each other's feelings and perspectives. This shift in how we communicated helped us break down barriers and build a stronger foundation for our renewed relationship. We came to understand that healing is not linear. It's a journey filled with ups and downs, progress and setbacks. Some days felt like leaps forward, filled with connection and understanding, while others felt like steps backward, clouded by frustration and pain. Accepting this reality helped us be more patient with ourselves and each other, knowing that setbacks were not failures but part of the process. As Michael began to build his own life with greater independence and confidence, I felt a deep sense of joy and pride. Watching him thrive, whether in his career, personal relationships, or pursuits, was a reminder of the young man he had always been and the man he was becoming. Our relationship evolved from one marked by dependence and conflict to one characterized by mutual respect and support. We were no longer just father and son bound by obligation. We were partners in a relationship built on understanding and love. We celebrated milestones together: birthdays, holidays, graduations, and achievements. These moments were more than just occasions. They were powerful reminders of how far we had come. Each celebration was a testament to the strength of our renewed bond and the resilience of our family. The laughter, the shared stories, and the simple joy of being together helped heal the wounds of the past and create new memories to cherish. This ongoing journey of healing highlighted the importance of resilience, the ability to withstand adversity, to adapt, and to keep moving forward despite challenges. It showed me that family is not defined by perfection, but by the willingness to work through difficulties together. The joy of rebuilding a relationship, of rediscovering connection and trust, is one of the most profound experiences life can offer. Our story is a testament to the enduring power of family, the ties that bind us, the love that sustains us, and the hope that guides us through even the darkest times. It reminds us that no matter how broken a relationship may seem, there is always a path to healing if both parties are willing to walk it. If you are facing similar struggles, know that healing takes time and effort, but it is possible. Be patient with yourself and your loved ones. Communicate openly, listen with empathy, and be willing to forgive and ask for forgiveness. Celebrate the small victories and hold on to hope. Looking back on this entire journey, I realized that it was as much about self-discovery as it was about reconciliation. The process of healing my relationship with Michael forced me to confront parts of myself I had long ignored or suppressed. I had to learn to let go of pride, the stubbornness that kept me from admitting my faults and asking for forgiveness. I had to relinquish control, the illusion that I could fix everything on my own terms. This was not easy. For years, I had defined myself by my ability to provide, to protect, and to lead my family. Letting go of that identity felt like losing a part of who I was. But in doing so, I found a new kind of strength, one rooted in vulnerability and openness. Embracing vulnerability was perhaps the hardest lesson of all. It meant allowing myself to be seen in my most imperfect state, to admit my mistakes, and to accept that I didn't have all the answers. It meant opening my heart to the possibility of pain, rejection, and disappointment. But it also meant opening the door to healing, connection, and growth. Vulnerability became the bridge that allowed Michael and me to reconnect on a deeper level, beyond the surface conflicts and misunderstandings. Prioritizing love over ego was another crucial step. I realized that my ego had often gotten in the way of our relationship. I wanted to be right, to be respected, to maintain my authority as a father. But these desires sometimes blinded me to Michael's feelings and needs. When I chose love instead, when I put his well-being and our relationship above my pride, I found that walls began to crumble. Love required humility, patience, and a willingness to listen without judgment. It required me to see Michael not just as my son, but as a person with his own struggles, fears, and hopes. Michael, in turn, taught me invaluable lessons about forgiveness and the courage to change. His journey was not easy either. He had to confront his own pain, anger, and disappointment. He had to find the strength to forgive me for the ways I had hurt him, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Forgiveness is not a simple act. It is a process that takes time, reflection, and commitment. Michael showed me that even when relationships break, they can be mended with effort and grace. His willingness to forgive opened the door for us to rebuild trust and create a new foundation for our relationship. Our story is a powerful reminder that family is not perfect, but it is precious. No family is without flaws, conflicts, or challenges. What matters is the willingness to work through those difficulties with love, patience, and respect. Family requires effort to communicate honestly, to listen deeply, and to support one another through life's ups and downs. It requires patience to endure setbacks and to keep trying even when progress seems slow. Above all, it requires respect for each other's feelings, boundaries, and individuality. I hope that by sharing our experience, others who are facing similar struggles will find hope and inspiration. Healing is possible even when the wounds seem deep and the path forward uncertain. Love has the power to overcome pain, to bridge divides, and to transform relationships. It is not always easy, but it is always worth it. This section of my story reflects on the personal growth that comes from facing difficult truths and choosing to change. It highlights the lessons learned about humility, forgiveness, and the enduring power of love. It offers a message of hope to anyone who feels lost or broken in their family relationships, that with courage and commitment, healing can happen. If you are struggling with family conflicts, I encourage you to take heart. You are not alone, and your efforts to heal and reconnect matter. Be patient with yourself and others. Seek support when needed, whether from friends, counselors, or trusted community members. Remember that every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. If you're watching this and struggling with family conflicts, I want you to know something very important. You are not alone. Family relationships are some of the most complex and emotionally charged connections we experience in life. They can bring us immense joy, comfort, and a sense of belonging, but they can also be sources of pain, frustration, and heartbreak. The truth is, no family is perfect. Every family has its struggles, misunderstandings, and moments of tension. What matters most is how we navigate those challenges and whether we are willing to work toward healing and reconciliation. Relationships, especially within families, are complicated because they involve so many layers: history, expectations, emotions, and individual personalities. Sometimes the wounds we carry are deep, and the pain feels overwhelming. It can be incredibly difficult to find common ground when hurt feelings and past grievances cloud communication. You might feel isolated, misunderstood, or even hopeless at times, but healing is possible. It may not happen overnight, and it may require effort, patience, and courage, but it is within reach. One of the most important steps toward healing is to speak up. It's essential to express your feelings honestly and respectfully. Bottling up emotions or avoiding difficult conversations only allows misunderstandings to fester and resentment to grow. When you speak your truth, you give others the opportunity to understand your perspective and to respond with empathy. It's not always easy to find the right words or the right moment, but taking that first step can open the door to meaningful dialogue. Equally important is the ability to listen. Listening is more than just hearing words. It's about truly understanding the feelings and experiences behind those words. When you listen with an open heart and without judgment, you create a safe space for others to share their truths. This kind of listening can break down barriers and build bridges where there were once walls. It shows respect and validates the other person's experience, which is crucial for rebuilding trust. Seeking help when needed is another vital part of the healing process. Sometimes, family conflicts become too complex or painful to resolve on your own. In these cases, reaching out to a counselor, therapist, or mediator can provide the guidance and support necessary to navigate difficult emotions and conversations. Professional help can offer tools for communication, conflict resolution, and emotional regulation that families might not be able to develop on their own. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a courageous step toward healing and growth. While it's important to not give up on those you love, it's equally crucial to not lose yourself in the process. Family conflicts can consume your energy and emotions, and it's easy to become overwhelmed or to sacrifice your own well-being in an attempt to fix things. Remember that your feelings, needs, and boundaries matter. Taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally is essential for being able to support others and to engage in healthy relationships. Self-care is not selfish. It's necessary. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our story. Sharing our experiences is a way to connect, to heal, and to remind each other that we are not alone in our struggles. If our story touched you, I encourage you to share your own experiences in the comments below. Your voice matters, and your story might be the encouragement someone else needs to keep going. By opening up, we create a community of support and understanding where people can find comfort, advice, and hope. Please don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you. Your support helps us continue to share stories that matter, stories about family, love, resilience, and the human spirit. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more true stories that reveal the complexities and beauty of family life. When you subscribe, you become part of a community that values honesty, courage, and connection. You'll be the first to hear stories that inspire, warn, and heal, stories that remind us all of the importance of respect and communication. Together, we can build a network of compassion and empowerment. We can remind each other that family, with all its imperfections, is worth fighting for. It's worth the effort, the patience, and the love it takes to keep it strong. Family is where we learn about love, forgiveness, and resilience. It's where we find our roots and our wings. It's where we come back to no matter how far we may wander. If you're struggling today, know that healing is possible. Take one step at a time. Reach out for support. Share your story. Together, we can create families that are not just connected by blood, but united by respect, love, and resilience. Thank you again for being here, for listening, and for being willing to engage with these stories. Your presence matters, your voice matters, and your journey matters. Let's continue to walk this path together with respect as our foundation and love as our guide. Remember, family is worth fighting for. It's worth the tears, the apologies, the second chances. It's worth every effort we make to heal and to grow. So hold on to hope, keep communicating, and never stop loving.